The room was silent enough to hear a pin drop, or in this case, a career shatter. 5 minutes ago, Preston Walsh, the CEO of a billion-dollar logistics firm, told the waitress to stick to refilling the water and stay in her lane. He didn't know that the woman pouring his sparkling water wasn't just a server. She was the only person in the room who knew his merger was a death sentence. When she finally opened her mouth, she didn't just take his order. She took his company, his reputation, and his freedom. This is the story of how the invisible girl in the apron became the most powerful person in the room. The Obsidian Room was the kind of restaurant where the menus didn't have prices, and the lighting was designed to make billionaires look 10 years younger. It was a place where silence was a currency purchased with exorbitant membership fees. Erica Corvez adjusted the collar of her stiff black uniform. It scratched at her neck, a constant, irritating reminder of her current station in life. At 28, Erica had learned the art of becoming furniture. To the high-net-worth individuals dining here, she wasn't a human being with dreams, a mortgage, or a past. She was a pair of floating hands that delivered vintage Cabernet and cleared away half-eaten, distinctively seared scallops. "Table 4 is yours tonight, Erica," Gregory Hines, the floor manager, whispered, his breath smelling of stale coffee and anxiety. He grabbed her arm, his grip tight. "Do not, and I repeat, do not mess this up. That's Preston Walsh." Erica glanced toward the corner booth. It was the power table, secluded by velvet ropes and acoustic paneling. Sitting there was a man who looked like he had been carved out of expensive granite. Preston Walsh, CEO of Vector Logistics. Beside him sat his entourage of sycophants, and opposite him, looking skeptical and weary, was Arthur Higgins, the legendary venture capitalist whose checkbook could make or break nations, let alone companies. "I know who he is, Gregory," Erica said, her voice steady. "I'll handle it. Just pour. Don't talk. Don't breathe too loud. Walsh sent a sommelier home last week for having a squeaky shoe." Gregory smoothed his tie and pushed her toward the floor. Erica walked toward the table, balancing a silver tray with crystal water tumblers. As she approached, the conversation didn't stop. Why would it? You don't lower your voice for the toaster or the lamp. And to Preston Walsh, Erica was just another appliance. "The valuation is solid, Arthur," Preston was saying, his voice a smooth baritone that oozed unearned confidence. He leaned forward, flashing a watch that cost more than Erica's parents' house. "We've streamlined the supply chain in the Midwest. The Q3 projections show a 40% increase in EBITDA. If we merge with OmniRoute, now we control the entire eastern seaboard." Arthur Higgins swirled his wine, looking unconvinced. He was an older man with silver hair and eyes that had seen every lie Wall Street had ever invented. "Preston, on paper it looks fine, but my analysts are worried about the debt load OmniRoute is carrying. You're absorbing a lot of liability." "Liability," Preston scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. "It's leverage, Arthur. Good debt. We acquire them, strip the redundant assets, and the cash flow covers the interest payments within 6 months. It's basic arithmetic." Erica placed a glass of water near Preston's right hand. He didn't look up. He didn't acknowledge her presence. He just kept talking, moving his hand dangerously close to the stemware. "It's a slam dunk," Preston insisted. "We sign tonight, announce tomorrow, and the stock jumps 20 points before lunch." Erica moved around the table to Arthur. As she poured, her eyes darted to the stack of documents spread out on the pristine white tablecloth. It was the due diligence report for the OmniRoute merger. Her eyes locked onto a chart on page 14. The operational expenditure column. Erica's heart skipped a beat. She blinked, looking again. The numbers were small, upside down, and dense, but Erica didn't just read numbers. She felt them. She had spent 5 years as a senior forensic auditor at Deloitte before the incident, before her life imploded, and she ended up wiping tables to pay legal fees for a crime she didn't commit. She knew what a cooked book looked like. She knew the rhythm of fraud. And right there, sitting in front of Arthur Higgins, was a mathematical impossibility. The maintenance capex for the trucking fleet was listed at 4.2%. For a fleet that size with vehicles averaging 6 years of age, the maintenance cost should have been minimum 12%. Someone was hiding nearly $80 million of operating costs to inflate the profit margins. Erica finished pouring Arthur's water. Her hand trembled slightly, not from nervousness, but from the adrenaline of recognition. This wasn't just a bad deal. It was a bomb. And Arthur Higgins was about to buy the detonator. She stepped back, clutching the silver tray against her chest. Walk away, she told herself. It's not your job. You need the tips. You need this job. Gregory will fire you on the spot. But then Preston Walsh laughed. It was a cruel, dismissive sound. Arthur, come on. You're overthinking it like an old maid. Trust the process. Trust me. I'm the smartest guy in the room. Erica tightened her grip on the tray. The smartest guy in the room. She retreated to the shadows near the service station, her mind racing. If Arthur signed that deal, he would lose hundreds of millions. Vector Logistics would collapse under the hidden weight of the maintenance costs within a year. Thousands of people, truckers, warehouse workers, admin staff would lose their jobs. People like her father. She watched Preston clink his glass against Arthur's. The predator and the prey. Gregory, Erica whispered as the manager bustled past. What? He snapped. Table 4, the merger papers. There's a mistake. Gregory stopped dead. His face turned a shade of purple, usually reserved for bruised plums. Excuse me. The capex numbers on the Omni route deal, she whispered urgently. They're suppressed. It's accounting fraud. If that man signs, he's buying a hollow shell. Gregory grabbed her shoulder and shoved her toward the kitchen doors. Have you lost your mind? You are a waitress, Erica. You carry plates. You do not audit the guests. If I hear one more word about numbers from you, you're out on the street. Now take the appetizers out and smile. He pushed her through the swinging doors. Erica stood in the loud, chaotic kitchen, the smell of truffle oil and searing beef filling her nose. She looked at the plate of Wagyu beef sliders the chef slammed onto the pass. Stay in your lane. She picked up the plate. She walked back out. She wasn't just going to serve the beef. She was going to serve the truth. The atmosphere at table 4 had shifted. The tension was dissipating, replaced by the jovial arrogance of a deal closing. Arthur Higgins had a gold fountain pen in his hand. The leather-bound contract was open. I still have reservations about the fleet age, Arthur murmured, hovering the pen over the signature line. But if you vouch for the maintenance logs, Preston. I personally reviewed them. Preston lied smoothly. He popped a piece of bread into his mouth. The fleet is pristine. We're buying a Ferrari for the price of a Ford Arthur. Erica approached the table with the appetizers. She placed the Wagyu sliders down in the center. Gentlemen, she said softly. Preston ignored her. Arthur glanced up and gave a polite, distracted nod. More wine, Mr. Walsh? Erica asked, holding the bottle of 2005 Bordeaux. Just pour it, Preston snapped, annoyed at the interruption. And don't drip. Erica poured. As the red liquid swirled into the glass, she cleared her throat. "It's a beautiful vintage," she said, "almost as impressive as a 4.2% maintenance ratio on a 6-year-old fleet." The silence that followed was immediate and absolute. Preston's hand froze halfway to his wine glass. Arthur Higgins slowly lowered his pen, his head snapping up to look at the waitress. "Excuse me," Arthur asked, his voice sharp. Erica didn't retreat. She stood straight, the bottle held perfectly in the towel. "I couldn't help but notice the CapEx figures on the summary sheet, sir. 2% is statistically impossible for heavy-haul logistics unless the trucks are sitting in a parking lot. Industry standard is 12 to 15%. If they are claiming 4.2%, they are capitalizing repairs as new assets, or they are deferring maintenance to a dangerous degree." Preston Walsh turned slowly in his chair. His face was a mask of incredulous rage. He looked at Erica as if she were a cockroach that had just learned to speak French. "What did you just say?" Preston hissed. "I said the numbers don't add up," Erica replied, her voice gaining strength. "If you sign that, Mr. Higgins, you're inheriting about $80 million in immediate repair liabilities that aren't on the balance sheet. Who the hell do you think you are?" Preston stood up, his napkin falling to the floor. He was a large man, imposing, used to using his physical presence to intimidate. "Manager Gregory," he roared. The entire restaurant turned to look. Gregory Hines came sprinting across the dining room, his face pale with terror. "Mr. Walsh, I am so sorry," Gregory stammered. "I don't know what Erica. Get to the kitchen immediately. You're fired. Get out." "No, Arthur," Higgins said. Ideally, his voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of authority that stopped Gregory in his tracks. "Wait." Arthur turned his chair fully toward Erica. "You're a waitress." "Currently, yes," Erica said. "And where did you learn about heavy-haul CapEx ratios?" Arthur asked, his eyes narrowing, studying her. "I was a senior analyst at Deloitte for 5 years," Erica said, ignoring Gregory's frantic hand gestures to shut up. "I specialized in forensic accounting for the logistics sector. I can see the P&L from here, Mr. Higgins. Look at line item 402, then cross-reference it with the depreciation schedule on page 8. The trucks aren't depreciating because they aren't being repaired. They are keeping the value high on the books by ignoring the rust on the axles." Arthur looked down at the papers. He flipped to page 8. He ran a finger down the column. He paused. Preston Walsh's face was turning a deep, dangerous shade of red. "This is absurd. Arthur, are you really listening to the help? She's probably high. Look at her. She's pouring water for a living. If she knew anything about business, she wouldn't be wearing an apron." Preston turned his venom on Erica. "You listen to me, you little—" "Stay in your lane," Erica finished for him, a cold smile touching her lips. "That's what you were going to say, right? Stay in my lane. You are disrupting a billion-dollar merger." Preston spat. "I will have you blacklisted from every job in this city. I will sue you for slander. I will ruin you." "You can try," Erica said, "but the math doesn't lie. Mr. Walsh, you do." "Gregory, get security," Preston screamed. 2 large security guards in dark suits appeared at the entrance of the dining room. Gregory pointed a shaking finger at Erica. "Get her out of here now." The guards moved forward. "If she leaves," Arthur Higgins said, closing the leather folder with a heavy thud, "I leave." The room froze again. Preston looked at Arthur, stunned. "Arthur, be reasonable. She's a nobody. She just found a discrepancy in 30 seconds that my team of Ivy League associates missed in 3 weeks, Arthur said coldly. He gestured to the empty chair next to him. Ms. Corves. Erica Corves. Ms. Corves, Arthur said. Please sit down. Erica untied her apron. She let it drop to the floor right next to Preston's napkin. Underneath, she wore a simple black blouse and trousers. She didn't look like a waitress anymore. She looked like a shark entering the water. She sat down. You can't be serious, Preston stammered. She can't sit here. This is a private meeting. It's my money, Arthur said. And if she's right, she just saved me a fortune. If she's wrong, you can have the pleasure of throwing her out yourself. Now, Miss Corves, show me exactly where the bodies are buried. Preston Walsh sat back down, but he didn't look comfortable. He looked like a man sitting on a wiretap. He chugged his wine and signaled aggressively for a refill, but no waiter dared approach the table. Erica pulled the documents toward her. The paper felt familiar under her fingers. It was the texture of war. The issue isn't just the maintenance, Erica began, her voice projecting clearly now. She didn't look at Preston. She focused entirely on Arthur. It's the fuel hedging strategy. She flipped to the back of the report. Mr. Walsh claims a 40% EBITDA increase. That's primarily driven by a drop in fuel costs, correct? Fuel prices dropped globally. Preston interjected, trying to regain control. Everyone knows that. Global prices dropped 12%. Erica countered instantly. Your report shows a 28% reduction in fuel spend. That's mathematically impossible unless you parked a third of the fleet. Or, she looked up, locking eyes with Preston, or you're routing the fuel purchases through a shell company to keep the cost off the main books, capitalizing it as debt in a subsidiary. Preston's jaw tightened. A small vein in his temple began to throb. That's a serious accusation. Arthur said, his voice low. Do you have the subsidiary list? Erica asked. Arthur pulled a separate sheet from his briefcase. Erica scanned it. Here. North Star Holdings, incorporated in Delaware 3 months ago. No assets, no employees, but it holds a $20 million line of credit guaranteed by Vector Logistics. Erica grabbed a pen from the table, Preston's expensive Mont Blanc, and scribbled an equation on the tablecloth. If you add the interest payments from North Star back into Vector's operating costs and adjust for the real maintenance schedule. She circled a number. The company isn't making a 15% profit margin. It's bleeding cash at 6% a month. They aren't merging with OmniRoute to expand Mr. Higgins. They are merging to use your capital to pay off the loan sharks before the whole scheme collapses. Arthur stared at the tablecloth. The ink bled slightly into the white fabric, staining it like a wound. He looked up at Preston. The silence stretched heavy and suffocating. Preston, Arthur said softly, is North Star your company? Preston laughed, but it sounded wet and nervous.